do a review in Lekutei Sichos, Chelek Chof Gimel, volume 23. And this is the second Sikha for the Parshas Naso. In this Sikha, the Rebbe explains a medrash which says that it's as if all the leaders who brought the korbanos during the 12 first days of the inauguration of the Mizbeach, as if they all brought it on the first day and all brought it on the last day. The Rebbe explains, so what's the advantage of the last day? Why is it considered like they all brought it on the last day? The Rebbe goes into a very detailed explanation about the special korbanos that they brought while they were individual korbanos. They were also communal korbanos. They overrode the Shabbos, as the Rebbe brings in, the one whose korban came out on Shabbos. But the whole idea over here of having the two parts, one individual as well at the same time, also a communal, and the Rebbe brings in about the general unity of different levels, two levels of Yidden, the one that we all come from one source, and number two, we all need each other, and further, we bring both of these together, the individual and our individual advantages or greatnesses, and then, but together with that, we're also part and really one, as the Rebbe will explain in detail. We'll go step by step. Naso base, Aleph. So Nochdem with the Torah verendigt dem Sipur. After the Torah concludes the story, wie die Nisim haben gebracht ihre Korbanos, the leaders, the princes of each one of the tribes brought their sacrifice, lachanukas hamizbeach, to dedicate the Mizbeach. Zog der Pasuk, so the Pasuk says, so it sums it up in the Pasuk, that Zois Chanukas Hamizbeach B'yoim Himoshach Oisoi. So this was the dedication of the Mizbeach on the day that they anointed it. Me'ez Nisiyei Yisrael. That came from the princes, the Nisim, the leaders of Israel. And he says, Kodesh Kesef Shteim Esrei. And the Pasuk says there was 12, a total of 12 plates. Each tribe, each leader brought one plate. So the fact on after 12 days, there was 12 plates. There's Sachako from the Kairos from alle Yudbeis Nesim. This is the total of all the plates of all the 12 Nesim. So we're saying Zois Chanukas HaMizbeach, and this was the dedication of the Mizbeach and the conclusion of all the different gifts, the totals, 12 plates, etc., all the other totals. Now, the fact that the Pasuk says here, Zois Chanukas HaMizbeach, but it says B'yomi Moshach Oisa, on the day that it was anointed. The anointment took place on the first day, on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And the dedication, the Chanukas HaMizbeach, through the princes, through the Nesiim, that took 12 days. The 12th day starting from Rosh Chodesh Nisan through the 12th of Nisan. So why does the Torah say this is the dedication of the Mizbeach? On the day he was anointed, there was 12. On the day he was anointed, there was only one, and it wasn't all 12. So the Medrash makes a note of them. State of them in Medrash. So the Medrash says about this. But on the day that it was anointed on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, there was only one plate by the Nasi who brought on the first day on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So how could you say that B'yom Moshach Oisei there was 12 plates. There was only one plate from the one Nasi. But the Medrash answers that the Torah considers it, even though it took place over 12 days, as if that if on the very first day when it was anointed on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, as if all of the princes had already brought their gifts, and therefore on Yom Himoshach Oisei there were 12 kairos, or there were the total of all of them. Elohelo Aleim Hakosu, but rather the pasuk counts it for them, Ki'ilu Kulam Hikrivu B'Yom Rishon, as if they all brought their sacrifice on their first day. Okay, so that's one way. That's interpreting the Yom HaMashiach Oisei with the 12. But the Medrash adds to it. He says also as if they all brought it on the last day. The Medrash banugen sich nicht damit. The Medrash is not satisfied just with saying as if they all brought it on the first day, nor is mamshich, but it continues that just like, and it's as if they all brought on the last day as well. Yeah, how do we know that? Where do we know Take anything about the last day? So the Rebbe brings down from the Mefarshim. Mefarshim zayin in the Vayer, and Mefarshim explain. Aski ilu hikribu b'yom achrin. How do we know as if they brought in the last day? Bert obgelernt derfun. We learn it from the fact was noch misayim zayin wegen alle korbanos hanisim, after concluding about all the sacrifice of the Nisim. Zog the Torah says, Zois Chanukas HaMizbeach. This was the Chanukah of the Mizbeach. Achareihi Moshach, after it was the anointment. And here we're already finished all of the korbanos. And the Torah says this is the Chanukas HaMizbeach. Well, the previous ones have already done it before, not at this point, but the Torah says after all concluded their korban on the after the 12 korbanos, and the Torah said this is the Chanukas HaMizbeach Achrei Moshe Choisei. So it's as if they all brought on the 12th day as well. So the Rebbe wants to know. The Rebbe is asking, but what is the advantage as if they brought on the last day? May let them bring in the first day. That shows on a advantage side by the people that we all brought it in the first opportunity, by the first one we consider as everybody brought together, and also that we don't say, well, the first one brought it, he already dedicated. The second one is the second in line, so the dedication was already done. We say no. So if they all dedicated right in the beginning, so there's an advantage to that. But what's the advantage to say that as if they all brought it on the last day? Darf man verstehen, so we need to understand. We can understand the advantage. In Ki'ilu Hikrivu B'Yom Rishon, as if they brought it on the first day, is moving, it's understood. And this is Saimit Tzad Dem Gavra. It's both because of the person. Dervas is makriv l'rishono. The one who brings first, Baistas that is chaviv yosef. That points that he is more dear. So we're saying here, no. They're all dear. They all, as if they all brought the first one. But otherwise, the first one seems to be more dear. Un is godel for the andere, and is greater from the other. So we're saying, no. Over here, they're all together. Usai mitzad der chefza, also the object of the dedication, mitzad Chanukas HaMizbeach. There's also an advantage to say that they all were there at the first, so that you don't say because technically the first one has an advantage as far as the dedication of the Mizbeach, because as is an Or zu sagen, there is room to say, there's room for this idea as the karbonos from the speter diketeg, that those sacrifices that come the later days, noch Yom Rishon, after the first day, seinen nit an inyan von Chanukas HaMizbeach, they're not really dedicating the Mizbeach, while der Mizbeach is schön nischanech geworden, the Mizbeach was already dedicated durch die karbonos von the Makriv B'Yom HaRishon, through the sacrifices of the one who offered them on the first day. So, because there is an advantage both to the person who brings first and also to the dedication of the first one, and we want to tell you, no, they're all equally great and they're all equally dedicating. So, Bavorant as the Medrash, so that's what the Medrash is trying to tell us. Asis ki'ilu v'yeder nosi is given the erster makriv. It's as if each nosi was the first one to offer. Und hat mechanech given the mizbeach, and he is the one that dedicated the mizbeach. As for the tzich aber biur, however, we need to explain what is the meile und oiftu in dem inyan. What is the advantage? What's the novelty? What is the accomplishment in the idea of Hel Aleim that he counseled to them ki'ilu kulam hikrivu b'yom achron, as if they all did it on the last day? What kind of a possible advantage is there in doing it last that we have to say it's as if everybody did it on the last day? Why does the Medrash say, and we learn out from the Pasuk, as if they all did it on the second day as well? The last day of the 12 days as well. So the Rebbe will explain now that each carbon of each Nasi brought its special, unique service to Hashem expressed through that carbon of that particular Nasi. So when was the Mizbeach really fully dedicated for all Klal Yisrael, for all people, for the last Nasi as well, for his tribe? That was by the last days. So we're trying to say that all Nisim also have part in the full dedication, because at this point it was dedicated for all the tribe. Can say the explanation of this. When we bring the offering of the karbonis on top of the mizbeach, which is the closed the kedinyan funavoida, that's the general theme, the idea when we say avoida, the service of Hashem, is the karbonis. So what happens is tut oif the dernenterung that accomplishes bringing close for the makriv zum Eibishter from the one that offers to Hashem. Karbonis meloshin kiruv. Karbonis comes from the language closeness. We are declared become a mekoimes, as explained in many places. So Sizia Dua, as the Hischalkus von Eden of Yud Beis Shvatim, the dividing of Yidden into 12 tribes, is verbunden mit dem Chiluk in dem Eufen, wie jeder von sie is Mishamishes Koinen. That is tied to the difference in the way that each one of these 12 tribes serves his master, his creator, serves Hashem. Ish asher kibir chosei berach oisam, as we say in the Pasuk, that he blessed each one. By Yaakov blessed his sons, the different tribes, each one according to their blessing, he blessed them, which is l'shamesh durkol masecha v'chulu, to serve through everything that they do, etc. Zainen farshiden in them, this difference between them to furish ba'abrachas, as articulated in the blessing. So this is in their regular activities, which activities are also essentially a service of Hashem, all the things, but also in this spiritual service, there is meaning to each tribe differently. Avodas Hashem tells in Yud Beis Drachim Kol. The service of Hashem is divided into 12 general pathways. Every leader and every tribe has their unique path in the service of Hashem. And we can say, Ados is der Tam, Parvos, the Chanukas, Hamizbeach is given durch the Yud Beis Nisim Davke. That is actually the reason we can say why the dedication of the Mizbeach was through the 12 tribes specifically, nicht durch Moshe Aaron, and not through Moshe and Aaron. Weil jeder Nossi hat mechanech given the Mizbeach, because each of the leaders, the princes of the tribes, they dedicated the Mizbeach loit sein avodah, according to their avodah. Durchbringen korbanos v'zeir teuchen is masim zu sein derech b'avodas Hashem. Through bringing offerings, korbanos, sacrifices, whose content fits to their path in the service of Hashem. We needed every prince, we needed every leader, every Nasi, his unique style and his unique path in the service of Hashem. We needed that to be expressed. That's why each one of them had to dedicate the Mizbeach separately, and it wasn't sufficient for Moshe and Aaron to do it for everybody. Now, one could ask and say, but they all brought the exact same thing. If they would bring different things, so you say every Nasi has a different item that they bring, but they brought exactly identical. But Ukamavur b'medrash is explained in the medrash as Afal pi azehom ale gebracht dieselbe korbanos. Notwithstanding, although they all brought the exact same offerings, thereby each leader had, at the time that they brought andere kavanas, they had different intentions. Behesem zu sein deya, that fitted his opinion, his view, und sein shevet, and his tribe, ki birchosei bracha shaloi, that was his blessing. Kol echod ve'echod hikrivo lifidaito, each one and one of the tribes, while it is exactly the same, identical, what they brought, but the kavanas were each one according to their mind. When the medrash is mefarit, and the medrash actually details the kavanas shoynus from alle prota korbanos, the various different intentions from the difference of the specific korbanos. By each leader a different kavanas, so they're not the same kavanas, while they're the same physical offerings, but the kavanas is different. Move on. So according to this, it's understood that since each tribe brought a new path and a new direction as the offering on the Mizbeach, so we understand as the Chanukas HaMizbeach is given, getting talk from the Sholteg, that actually the dedication of the Mizbeach took place every day of the 12 days. Every day was a new way because it was a new Nasi and a new style. Welcher is not given klal in the andere Helftag, which did not, was not at all in the other 11 days. Der Chinuch HaMizbeach is nicht verendigt geworden. The dedication of the Mizbeach was not completed before. Erst, it's only when jeder Nasi, when each leader, when alle Nisim and all the leaders, gebracht alle seine korbanis, they brought all of their offerings, lifi daito, according to their mind, their individuality. They dedicated the Mizbeach euch also mit und auf dem Eufen with and on this type of avodah is given Chanukas HaMizbeach. That's when the dedication of this Mizbeach took place, because now we have all styles, everything included. Ledugmas, for example, Erst dem 12th Tag, it is only on the 12th day is the Mizbeach Mischanach geworden. The Mizbeach was dedicated at Makarev Zayin Eden to bring Yidden close Vachazainim for Shevet Naphtali, which are from the tribe of Naphtali. So that took place only on the 12th day, because up to that day there were the other styles, but it was Naphtali. Bozeir Leben, the life of them as the blessing, you go and take a look, is Ayolo Shlucha, Hanoisen Imrei Shefer, as the Pasuk says. He's quick like an Ayol who gives words of praise of Shefer, as the Pasuk says in Vaychi Memtes Chof Aleph, and also in the Medrash, the different hints for that Korbanis. So now we know that something dedication was dedicated at the 12th day for Naphtali. So now that we say that, we can also understand that we will continue that the full dedication of the Mizbeach therefore took place on the 12th day, because then it became dedicated for everybody. That's why we say Hella, as we'll see inside. Ois Gimel. Al Pizeh, that man verstehen, based on this, we'll understand was the Medrash zogt, that what the Medrash says, Hella aleim hakosuv, that the pasuk counts it for them ki'ilu kulam ikrivu b'yom rishon, as if they all brought it on the first day, or ki'ilu kulam ikrivu b'yom achrein, and as if they all brought the offering on the last day. Afalpi as jeden tag for the Yud Beis Yom, even though that on every day of these 12 days, hat sich aufgetan a besonder Prat in Chinuch HaMizbeach, a new detail of the dedication of the Mizbeach was accomplished. Durch die Korbanos von dem Nosi Sheikriv B'yom Zeh, through the leader that brought on that day, is aber farana maila miyuchedes in dem yom rishon and in dem yom achre. There is still a advantage on the first and the last day, while each day is something different, but there is something unique, special advantage on the first and on the last day. In dem yom rishon is given the haschola upsicha von Chinuch HaMizbeach. On the first day was the beginning and the opening of the dedication of the Mizbeach. And in addition, the Iker, and the main point, Tammuz is geworden Derinyan Kloli. That time, besides the fact it was the opening, it was also the general theme, the general idea. Noisef dem Prat for Shevet Yehuda, in addition to the detail that at that point the tribe of Yehuda brought it. As is geworden the Metzias von a Mizbeach Mechunach, there became such an existence from a Mizbeach that has been dedicated. So that's the advantage of the first day. There is a dedicated Mizbeach. Let it be by Yehuda, but there is a dedication for a Mizbeach. Und dem Yom Achren is dort the Maila, and on the last day there is the advantage, as in Imot sich aufgetan, that then on the last day, what was accomplished then, as the Mizbeach is geworden mechunach, that the Mizbeach became dedicated euch faren letzten Shevet, also for the last tribe, Shevet Naphtali, ba'al yidei zeh, and by the last one, dedication, Naphtali, it became mechunach for Klal Yisrael, for all of Yidden, al saklal b'poyel, as a general, in actuality, for all Yidden. When did it work for all Yidden? After the 12th day, after Naphtali. Those made their Medrash. This is what the Medrash means. Hello aleim hakosuv ki'ilu kulam ikrivu b'yom rishon or ki'ilu kulam ikrivu b'yom achron. Also counts it as if they all brought it on the first day and as if they all brought it on the last day. Jeder Nasi hat aufgetan, every prince, accomplished nicht nur dem Prat von Chanukas HaMizbeach, was is verbunden mit seine Korbanos, not only the detail of the dedication of the Mizbech, which is tied to his Korbanos, which means only as an individual and representing his tribe that he brought and his Korbanos, nor is ki'ilu, but it's as if hot de Meile von Klolus HaChinuch. It's as if he also has the advantage of the general dedication. Und euch der Bekoyach von alle Pratim, and also the potential of all the details. So he's like, everyone is like in the first day, which is the beginning, and the general dedication that started on the first day, and also the general dedication of Mizbech in actuality, which was accomplished on the 12th day after the Shevet Naphtali. So all tribes have that advantage. As is verstandig, it's understood. As vi bald Teures emes zocht, since Torah, which is truth, says, is ki'ilu kulam ikrivu b'yom rishon, achen, as if they all brought it on the first and the last day, is as the far that the reason for that is as be'emes, that in the truth is as the far as yeder nosi is be'emes achele from kulam, because every leader is taka part of all. Unsai b'mailas from yom rishon, unsai b'mailas from yom achrin, and in both advantages. So every nosi is really part in the advantage that is in the first day. That's why Torah says as if on the first day, and also on the last day, as if on the last day. Der mit seinen Meforshim Avayer, the Forshim explained with this, was der Medrash zog dort bismiches fardem. The Medrash says nearby, before this, he says, the Medrash quoting the Medrash says, V'lo hikriv echad mehem yoser al chaveire, that no one Nasi brought anything more than his friend. And he explains, She'ilu hikriv echad mehem yoser al chaveire, had one brought more than the other, than another Nasi, lo hoya korban echad mehem doiches haShabbos, then one of their korbanos would not have overwritten the Shabbos. The doiche echad mehem, the Rebbe says in the parentheses, the korban from Shevet Ephraim, the sacrifice of the tribe of Ephraim, that was on the Shabbos day, was his Oizgefam B'Yom HaShabbos, which came out on the day of Shabbos. It would not have overridden the Shabbos because it would have been a personal korban, it would have been a korban yochid. Korban yochid does not override the Shabbos. And therefore, says the Medrash, it's as if all the korbanos that they brought are not personal korbanos, but they are in effect korbanos tzibur. Der Tam was the korbanos from Chanukas HaMizbeach seinen doiche Shabbos. The reason why these sacrifices of the Chanukas HaMizbeach, in this case the Shevet Ephraim, how come they override the Shabbos? Is val heyois as helle aleim. This is what they're explaining the Meforshim. Since the pasuk counts it ki'ilu kulam ikrivu b'yom rishon chulu b'yom achrin, as if they all brought on the first and the last days, the riber hoyonechshav lekorban tzibur shedoiche Shabbos. That's why this is considered as a communal sacrifice that overrides the Shabbos. So they're like all bringing it together. And the proof of that is the fun was loy hoya korban echad behen yeser al chaveda, because one korban did not have anything more than the other one. The Baal not yet gebracht dieselbe korban. Since every day we brought the same sacrifices, is a haichocha. That's evident as jeder von sie is given that each one of them need nora korban miyuchat from them. It was not just a specific korban from that leader, nor oich korbanes at sibur, but also they're also communal sacrifices. And that's why, because they're communal get the same. So it's not really different. Personal would be different, but this is a communal, so it's all the same. And that is why we consider them all, because it's that they brought it all on the first day, all on the last day, which is the general psicha of the Mizbeach, and the conclusion in Poil for all Yidden. This is attributed to each one of these tribes, to the Nisim. So that means that this sacrifice is like a korban tzibur. But yet, the Rebbe needs to explain this, because on one hand, we're saying that it's a korban tzibur and it overrides Shabbos, and they all bring exactly the same thing. But we also said that they had to bring it on separate days, and each one had a kavanah. It's also individual. So is it a tzibur or it's individual? Hey, therefore, we need to, however, understand wie stimmt der inyan. How does this fit? This idea, having gebracht the korbanos b'chol yom v'yom al korbanos sibur. It's as if they brought it in every day as communal sacrifices. Because steht in Medrash Kinal, with the fact that it says in the Medrash, quoted earlier, mentioned earlier, Knis Kol as kol echad ve'echad ikriv lifidaitu. Everybody had its own direction, and it was his own korban, and that's the idea, that every korban of each one of the leaders was prepared the way for his birchose hashabeirachose, as the Rebbe explained earlier. And on the other hand, the korbanos hanisim zainen euch korbanos hatzibur, if the sacrifices of the leaders are also communal sacrifices, they could have all offered them in one and the same day. Why do we have to give them as separate days? The explanation was because they're individual korbanos. That's why they're separate. And here we're saying that they're like korbanos sibur. Especially, the Rebbe said they could have done it on one day. That was their intent in the beginning, until the Eibishter said no. Befrat, as the Nisim the leaders in the beginning, they had in mind, as they're going to bring it all on the same day. Via state, as the Pasuk states, Vayakrivu Hanisim as Chanukas Hamizbech B'Yoyim Himoshach. I say that the Nisim brought the korbanos on the day that it was anointed, and then it says by Yakrivu Hanisim es korban lifnei hamizbeach. They brought the korban before the mizbeach, so that means that the intention was to bring all the korbanos on the first day of Nisan. The Afo became the Eibishter ongesagt, and yet the Eibishter instructed as dafke nosechad layoim yakriv es korbanim. There should be only one leader per day to bring the korban. Muzman zogen. So we have to say, Adozainen given Beidin Yonim Begedor. That there was actually both aspects over here. And both definitions. It had both a korban sibur and a korban yochid. The korbanos hanisim zainen korbanos hatzibur kulom. The korbanos of the leaders are actually communal korbanos of all of them. And together with being all, is dafki mishaloi heavy. He has to bring on from his own. Sometimes when you bring and you give your gift, you give the machzis shekel, you have to mix it in so it becomes one. Or here we don't find it. He gave his, was still an individuality over there. We don't find that you need to yafa. It means that it stays his korban mishaloi. And the contrary, that was according to his mind. It's a korban tzibur, but yet it's the daiti. And the posik is madgish, and the posik actually emphasizes that korban Nachshon ben Aminadav Kiyetzva. He says specifically, this is Nachshon ben Aminadav's korban. So there's an emphasis on the individuality of this korban, as opposed to being a korban tzibur. The hakrove bipoyo from Yedin Nasi, the actual offering, the korban of each in actuality of every prince is avgitelt loit daitoy davke. It is separated according to that leader's, that Nasi's mind. Ubemele oichen abazunder tog, and then also in another day, come on, like we said later on. So you have the communal and you also have the individuality, as the Rebbe will explain later on. But first, the Rebbe asks in another question, in the gifts that they brought 6 wagons for 2 tribes. Each two tribes brought 1 wagon. Why? Why didn't each one bring 1 wagon? Why did they have to participate? And also the 12 cattle that they brought to lead the wagon, you need 2 cattle per wagon. That means that one without the other one doesn't work. So why did they bring it in such a way that there has to be the participation of the others? That's another question. Another issue, and what has that got to do with the Chanukas HaMizbeach, these wagons to carry the beams? The Rebbe is going to ask. So another issue, as it relates to the gifts of the leaders, was that requires explanation. Before they brought the korban for the dedication of Mizbeach, at the same time, together with that, first they brought 3 covered or beautiful, Rashi gives 2 types of wagons. They gave 6 wagons, and 12 cattle. And the Eibishter hat angesagt Moshe, and the Eibishter instructed Moshe at the Agolis Ubakar, that these wagons and the cattle are given to Bnei Levi, Losa Mishkan, they should be given to the sons of Levi for carrying the Mishkan. Is not verstandig, it's not understood. That gift of the wagons and the cattle that has no connection to the service in the Mishkan, Chanukas HaMizbeach, which is dedicating the Mizbeach. So how come the Nisim brought this gift in them Zalman's at the same time that they were offering the dedication of the Mizbeach? What's the connection between the cattle and that's for carrying the Mizbeach? And here we're talking about dedicating and doing things on the Mizbeach. Euch is nicht verstandig. In addition, it's also not understood. Wie kommt es? How come was the Nisim was jeder von sie hat gegeben, that these, talking about the princes, that each one of them gave ba'oifen, in a way, ubahad goshas nidvas alev, it was generosity of the heart, as Rashi, the Medrash, bring down, but gebracht nita dover shalom la'atzmi, they didn't have a independent, complete item by itself. Nor, on one hand, they brought the agola achas al shnei anisim, 1 wagon for 2 leaders, and unit yeder nose and agola la'atzmi, not each leader to bring its own wagon. Beis euch benegei dem shor, even as far as the cattle, the ox was yeder nose gebracht bifnei atzmi. Each one brought 1 ox. Is the given the oifen, that gift was in such a way as their shoir, this ox is a halbe zach, is only a half of a matter. He must have another ox. Every carriage needs 2 cattle. So he didn't bring even the fact that each one brought 1 cattle, but that cattle is not useful by itself. It goes together with the other one. How come? So the Rebbe says, Zayin, v'yesh loymar, bir b'chol zeh b'pnimis v'remes v'inyan. Can explain all this in the inner meaning and the hint of this idea in the two ways that Yidden unite, as the Alter Rebbe brings down in Tanya, either because we all fit and we're really in our source, we're not really different, or because notwithstanding that we each one have our own greatnesses, but we need each other. Zayin, Shloimar biur b'kol zeh b'nei Ram Zinyan. Yeder Yid had zwei Meiles Klolius. Every Yid has two general advantages. Aleph, the Meiles in welchen is gleich mit alle Yidden, the advantage that in which he is equal with all other Yidden. Der Farvus av echad l'kulono. We have one Father. There's one Father for all of us. So basically, we share the same Father. We say to Mizeh, and even more than having one Father, but we're still separate. But there is the level in which we really one. We're not even separate. Mitzad shodesh hanishamis. The root of the soul, zayin alle Eden einzach. The root of Eden, we're all really one. We're not even separate. That's one. Base, then we have the Mailis Proteus, the individual greatness. According to the different levels, as the Pasuk mentions, that take place, that have by a year. We have Roshechem Goimer, as the Pasuk speaks between Roshechem, the Goimer, Atem Nitzov Mayem, Roshechem, Ba'ad Sheim Emecha, till the water carry. These are the 10 different categories mentioned in the Pasuk. Sheyesh b'chol echad ve'echad b'chines u'madreges, that each and every one has such levels and steps, mashein b'chaveda, which his friend doesn't have. That is separately, as the Alter Rebbe writes in the Likutei Torah in Tzavim. Was euch der Sug Meiles führt zu Achdus zwischen alle Iden. Also, this category of greatness brings about unity amongst all Yidden. When you know, when you feel, that we all need one another. No one is complete without the friend. Bring this to them that leads to this, as men soll sich mesachet sein mit der zweiten Yidden, that we should unite with another Yid. Mit noch Yidden, with more Jews. Because durch them, by uniting, is einer mashtem im zweiten. One completes the other one. Kiyudua, as it's known, as alle Yidden stellen zusammen, that all Yidden put together, one whole story. So each one participation is part of that one koima. And in jedem von die zwei Sugen, these two categories we talked about, the fact that we're really one or we fit, and the fact that we need each other, is there is an advantage relative to the unity of the other level. Betzad dem ersten Sug, because of the first category, that we all fit and we all have one Father, is the Achdus Aggressor. It's that unity is greater. But das kommt von them, because that comes from the fact was alle Eden seinen Melachatchila sagt, that all Eden are to begin with one thing. Aber in zweiten Sug, but in the second category is the Achdus Atitzoe. The unity comes as a result from der Himisboinenus, from the reflection, as man darf onkommen zum zweiten, that we need to come out to the other one. Ubimele bleibt jeder Sach für sich abgeteilt von zweiten. And therefore, everyone remains an item by himself, separate from the other one. We just need each other, but we're still separate. So that's an advantage of we all fit, we're all together over the second level of unity that we need each other. But li'idoch, on the other hand, is over farana maile in zweit leifene achdus. there is an advantage in that second level of unity. Because the act of that unity, when we recognize each other's milas, is they also address, and they're also in the detailed aspect of a yid, in which he is separate from another yid, and even their effects are feeling the prat shaloi, so that even in that his detail, where it feels zain maila, that he senses his greatness, that herter euch dort, also in that level of sensing yourself, you still feel as nitken shalom on the zweiten yid, that you're not complete without the other yid. And the Rebbe is going to bring out now that ultimately the intent is to combine these two levels of Achdus together so that we have both milas put together. And the Rebbe is going to explain this is understood from the language that the Alter Rebbe uses, a very specific language which alludes to the fact to this higher level of unity through both of these categories of unity. Ches. The tachlis hakavona is, the ultimate intention is, as zozain di farenikun from beide milas, that this should be the unity from both advantages. As euch when men is makir, sein meile protis, that also when you have a recognition of your individual greatness, so the gleichzeitig filun. So at that time, you should also feel nicht nor as darf onkommen zu Hatzveit need, not just that you need to come on to another Jew. Weil hat nicht der Meile shesh bechavere, because you don't have his advantage that one has, nor is ein Sache mit der zweiten Nieden beachtus gemura, but rather he's one thing with the other yid in complete unity. Even when sensing your Mila, it's not just because you need the other person to make up a different Mila, but you feel at that time that you're really one with another. How could that be? What is the That's part of the explanation, because the Alter Rebbe is Nevayer. When the Alter Rebbe explains by Eden, he says that how by Eden it's in a way as kulam tzrichim zelos, that they need one each other. And in the Likutei Torah, so he says, "Val keiner hat nit kein shleimus b'li chavered," because no one has wholesomeness without his friend. Zokter dem Loshen, he uses the language as durch dem wird aufgetan an Achdus, that through this you will accomplish a unity mibli yim tzahadam reish v'seif, without finding the head and the end, the beginning and the end. Und er ist dort Nevayer, as he explained, that this is verbunden mit beginnes igulim. This is tied to the level of igulim circles. Was in an igul ein loy beginnes reish v'seif. In a circle, there is no beginning and end. It's circles. It's like nit verstandig. So it's simply not understood. Das was jeder Yid is mashlin and zweit, the fact that one Yid completes the other one. These as afilu dervas is in the darge for a line, to the extent that one fills the other Yid. That so that even if a person who's on the level, on the step, is like the legs. In Rosh, he has an advantage that doesn't exist in the head. You can't walk with your head, you need your feet to walk with. So that means the feet provide an advantage that the head doesn't have. It needs to go there. And also you stand on the legs, the body, and the head. So this explanation is not Marisbir as Chaver is a that only explains that your head is, your friend may be the head, even though he's a foot, but he's actually a head, because for walking, he's the head. But how, what does the Alter Rebbe mean? That there's a unity in an Oifun, without finding the beginning and the end. And the Rebbe wants to say he's hinting to this higher level of this combined union. Test Yeshloimar, we can say as the meat is that Alter Rebbe Miramis, so Alter Rebbe hints to a higher idea, was been zusammen beide Suge Avdus Anal, which ties together these two categories of the unity of above. The Miles, the Koiches Aprotim from an Eden, the advantages, the greatness, and the specific powers of a Jew, they're not something different than the essence of his soul. Nor sie seien verbunden und kommen von Etzen and Neshama. But rather, they're tied and they come from the essence of the soul. It's not like different. Was sie ist neusin sich alle protim. That carries in it all the details. So this is revealed. You have the details, but the essence of a neshama carries within the essence all the details. Therefore kommt euch his kalus hakoiches. And from that essence of the soul also comes the inclusion of all the powers. Yet the koyach proti is koilel al koiches. Each individual koyach also includes all powers. Because in the source, they're all there together. Bald as the shoydesh from moker. Because the root and the source of every individual power is that is the essence of the soul, which carries all powers. The riber seinen in jeden koyach, therefore in every koyach, mitzadem etzem sheboy, because of the etzem in that koyach, koylel Allah andere koyachs includes all the other koyachs, because in the source they're all included. Derech Zeh has been negated that Koim Achas Shleima from Klal Yisrael. Similar, it's as it relates to this one complete story from all Yid, from all the Klal Yisrael. Those was the alle Meiles Protiyos von alle Yidden stellen zusammen. Koim Achas Shleima. This that the individual advantages of all Yidden put together one story. Is as their father. The reason for that is was alle Eden seine beetzem ein Zach mit Tzad Shedesh Nishmosham Nafsham. That is because in essence Yidden are really one because of the root of their soul. Hayois as von dorten nehmen sich the mindless protis genau. Since in the source of the soul come all the specific advantages. So it all comes because of the root of the soul. High timer, for that reason, is euch die Meile Protis von Aid. Even that individual advantage is in sich koilel von Aid, in sich koilel, that also includes in it alle andere Meiles von Aid, all the other advantage from the other Yidden, because in the source carries everything. So as it comes out to you, it also, because of the source, has the Meile from the other Yid. That creates a unity also because from the prospect of the individual greatness of a Yid. In an oifum from Mibli Yimtza Adam Rosh V'Seif, in a way, as the Alter Rebbe writes in the Kutei Torah, without finding the beginning and the end. While in them oifum, because in this way is nitoken hecherkeit from ein Eden leifat zweiten. There's no greater one than the other. It's not only that you need the other Yid, but you have a greatness the other doesn't have. But in here, it's not one greatness, you're not higher than the other Yid. By jeder Eden seinen Faran alle Meiles, by every Yid there is all advantages. Und der Chiluk is not benegated to give the help. It's only difference what it comes out, what's revealed and hidden. By one Yid, this Mile is Begilui, and by the other Mile is Begilui. By ein Eden steht der Ring Harish Begilui. By one Yid, the idea of the head is open. alle andere Meile seinem Kolul in dem Welt. And all the other advantages are included in a hidden way in the advantage of the Rosh. Und bei zweiten steht der zweite Meile Megillah. By another one, the second advantage is open. Und alle übrige Meile seinem Biskalus Belmenir. And all of the other advantages are included, hidden in that Meile that the other one has. This is al derech hamevuer, similar to explained in the Minyan, from Oisig ben mitzvah potter min mitzvah, that one who is occupied in a mitzvah is exempt from doing a mitzvah. Why? Ados is der Far, was alle mitzvahs eine kolum mikol mitzvahs, because every mitzvah is included for the mitzvah. When you're doing this mitzvah, you're actually doing the other mitzvah as well, because they're all connected. Even though on a revealed way is a Mekayim lois the mitzvah pratis, he's only observing the specific mitzvah, is as ki ilu Mekayim gven. It's as if he would also being fulfilling all andere mitzvahs, the other mitzvahs. So you don't need to do the other mitzvahs because you're already doing that mitzvahs. In that mitzvah behelim, which are included in this mitzvah in a hidden way. Yud. Und das ist euch der Biur in einem Öfen Beseder von Mitvas Hanesim Lachanukas HaMizbeach. This also explains the way and the order as the gifts of the Nesim were brought for the dedication of Mizbeach. Kidei de Chanukas HaMizbeach soll sein betachlis hashleimus. In order that the dedication of the Mizbeach should be in its complete, ultimate wholesomeness, completeness, but gedarf sein der Ichot from Beide Ktsobes needed to unite both corners, both extremes. Needed to have the service of every leader tribe from his own personal. Each one brought it according to his daito, needed that individual, his input. Und der Fari says, given abgeteilt Zman, and that's why it was this separating time. Jeder hakrovina bazunder tog, every offering on a separate day. Leido Chober, on the other hand, however, hot in them gufe gedav der herfer, you need to sense in the individuality the euch mitzad der avoda protis from the nosi b'shevet, that even in his individualized service of that particular Nosdi and that tribe is that Ein Zach mit alle Iberi Kenesim Ushvotim, is really one with all the other leaders and tribes. Und dozog der Medrash ki'ilu kulom ikrivu v'yemrishu v'yemachre, as if they all brought it on the first and the last day, Kanal Sidalet. Ados is der Far was the Karbonis v'yedin tog seine Gewen, Karbonis hat Zibur. That the reason is because they were all communal sacrifices, and therefore it's just like they did it all on the first day, the last day, everybody together. While the korbanos von jeden Tag, because these sacrifices of every day haben in sich enthalten euch die avodas, they also included the service of a tzibur from Kulam. Avodas korbanos a tzibur from Kulam, from everybody. High time a gufa. For that reason, of Allah Nisim, Makri and the Zalba Karbonis. That's the reason why they brought the same Karbonis. As is in Yeda from the Karbonis Faran, in each one of the Karbonis, there exists the rumors, the Avodah from the Tzibur, from from Kulam. When the Chelek is not, the only difference is Velcha Avodah Shtei Begilukina, which is openly. But in a hidden way, it's a korban tzibur as well. And that's why it was the same korban for each one. Der meat that man euch verstehen, with this we can also understand the shaykhs from Nidves HaGolis to Chanukas HaMizbeach, the connection of the gifts of the wagons to the dedication of the Mizbeach. Kedei as soll sich kennen öfton the Achdus, in order for it to be able to accomplish that unity. The Adle Eufen, to the extent in such a way from Bli Yimtza Odom Reish Seif, so that you don't find the beginning or an end. Euch sein dich vernommen mit einer Avoida Protis, even when they are detailed in a specific Avoida, and yet not to be able to see at that time and to realize that this is included and everybody, and this is no special for you because you have all the root includes everybody. Haben the Nisim frier gebracht. First, the Nisim, in order to accomplish that, Nisim brought a nidove v'chumt und richt ois. They brought a gift which comes and expresses an achdus v'sisecher von his chalkus, a unity which is higher than division. Odoso gegeben dem koyach, this gave the power zu poil sein dis achdus gemura, the complete unity, euch in the avodas proteus, also in the specific services. So they needed to bring a gift which is higher than separation in order to bring out that level when we are dealing with specific avodas. And this is the Haggadah for Nidvas Hagolas. That's the introduction of the gift of the wagon. He only gives a half of a wagon. And also the ox, his ox can only be used only together with somebody else's. As said earlier in Sivov. This expresses, brings out that each leader on his own can only do when his buddy, when his other friend, when he completes it. The far haben die Nisim gebracht der Agolas Chula alle zusammen. That's why the wagons they brought together, not like one separate days. Als ein Nedova Klolis, this was one general gift, unlike the Korbanis. Und euch, wenn Moshe hat das Basei genommen, and also when Moshe took it from them, is nicht gewöhnlich looking zwischen etwas ein Nasi mit dem zweiten, there was no distinction between one leader and another one. After doing this, then comes the dedication of Mizbeach. Which each leader on himself had gebracht the korbanos bezunder, brought their korbanos separately. And in them gufat and this itself, they draw down a complete unity that it's still, notwithstanding their own milas, they're still the tzibur altogether. Your base. So the Rebbe is going to explain now that these levels of the three unities, we can find it in the Mishkan. Your base. Just as these above three aspects exist by Yid Aleph, there is level that to begin with he's one with all Yid. On his chalkus, there's no dividing, no divisions. Base, then we have Zamayla Protis, that he has his individual mind. And Gimel, number 3, the Ichlut for sein Etzem Kanal mit dem Brat, then uniting his Etzem with the detail, that this detail comes from the Etzem, it's really one. We also find similar these three aspects by the Mishkan. Aleph, we have the Kedusha Klolis from the Mishkan, the general secretary of the Mishkan. When you say the Mishkan, was nimmt darum dem ganzen Mishkan. That encompasses the entire Mishkan, Kol Chalokav Uprotu B'Shavim. All the parts, all the details of the Mishkan, equally, you have a Mishkan, one Mishkan. Base, then you have the Kedushas Proteus from the Chelek Mishkan. You have the specific sanctities of the different parts of the Mishkan. You have Kedushas Chotzer, the sanctity of the courtyard, Kedushas Oil Moed, the sanctity of the tent of meeting, or Kedushas Kodesh HaKadoshim, and the sanctity of the Holy of Holies. That's the specific. And then you have Gimel, Der Yichud from Beite Kedushas B'Yachad, uniting both of these Kedusha together. Was mit Sadem wird nicht Teuse bei Kedusha Yiseda in der Kedusha Promis. Because of the union of these two Kedushas, the general Kedusha into the individual Kedusha, that adds a additional Kedusha in that individual Kedusha. So based on this, we can explain was the Medrash Zog the Negei the Karbonis for Naso Shimon. The Pasuk says something about the Karbonis Shimon, which is a little surprising, as the Rebbe brought before from the Medrash. Each Nasi had a little bit different interpretation how these Karbonis was interpreted. So by Shimon it says, "I'll say their Maisa Mishkan," that represented the order, the way they built the Mishkan. These were the different Karbonis. And this is what the language of the Medrash. Kairos, says the plate, is Keneged Chotzar HaMishkan. That, the Kaira, the plate, that corresponds to the courtyard of the Mishkan. Shoyo Makifes HaMishkan. That circled and surrounded the Mishkan. So how much was this kaira? It says Shloishim Umeyo Mishkola. It was 130. So how does this represent by the chotzer? Like we say, Oirach HaChotzer Meyo Ba'amo. The chotzer was 100 amo. That's Meyo. Va'Mishkan Shoyu B'toicha Shloishim Amo Orka. And the Mishkan within the chotzer was 30 amas orka. Hare meir shloshim. That's the meir shloshim. Then mizrok echad kesef. It was keneged hachotzer b'loy hamishkan. That corresponds the chotzer without including the mishkan. Shahoiso ayin ama, because if the Mishkan was 30 Amma in the Chotzer, and that takes away from the 100, it becomes 70. So the Chotzer without the Mishkan was 70. And therefore, V'chein Mishkan Mizrach Shivim Shekel, Matas Kuna. So the Mizrach, the 70 corresponds to the Chotzer without the Mishkan. Davar Achad. Now that Chotzer, Oyorkai Kuf Amo V'roch Benun. Chotzer was 100 amma long and 50 ammas wide. Tul chamishim ve'asei mehem ritzuos. So if you take 50 and you break it up to strips over the 100, so then what you'll get, and you make it square, it'll be ayin amma, it'll be 70 amma. That's why it's shibim shekel, because if you square it out, if you divide it up, you take 100 by 50, you make it square, you'll get 70 by 70. And that's the hint for the 70 kara achas. It's the chayre nit verstandig, so it's seemingly not understood. Aleph. The Shloishim Amma von Eirech HaMishkan, the 30 Ammas of the length of Mishkan, sind doch Niflum the Meya Amma von Eirech HaChotzer. They seem to be included, they should be included in the other Ammas of the Eirech HaChotzer. Wie rechnet man noch einmal the Shloishim Amma? How could we count the 30 Amma again in Tzugab to the Meya Amma in addition to the 100? We're saying over there it's 130. But how could you count the Mishkan separately? How do you have 130 Amma? But when you counted 100, you already included the Mishkan base. Since we have the number of Kulam, which has the measure of the Chotz of the Mishkan, so so why did they have to bring another one of the Chotzer without the Mishkan? because he said and boss in Gimel. So you took away, so you have 70, that according to the first opinion over there. So why did we need another one for that? Gimel, what is the svara from the Manda Omar? What is the idea of the opinion as the Shivim Shekel Zaine Nit Keneged Chotzer B'la Mishkan? Says it's not the Korja without the Mishkan or Keneged them Ganzen Chotzer, but it includes the whole Chotzer. But we say it's 70 because when you square it out. As mitzad dem darf man mechader sein, nit rechnen die shirayim, then you have to come up with the leftovers over there because there's not exactly in the, when you square it out, it won't come out exactly to 70, and we have to say that you don't count the extras over there. Why don't we just learn that, like the first opinion, that's the 70 is the Chotzer without taking the space of the Mishkan, which was 70. What's the idea? But based on the above, we can say, as the Draya Fanim are now Bitzurechen and the Meirach HaChotzer. These three ways to count the Chotzer, Aleph, Shloishim Umeya, 30 and 100, a Mispar versus Koilel. It's a measurement that includes the midah von Chotzer Mishkan biyachad. You're counting the Chotzer and Mishkan together, zusammen damit, and at the same time, the midas of Mishkan b'fnei atzmi, you're still counting the 30 for the Mishkan by itself. Based the Chotzer b'loy Mishkan, which is the Shivim Amo, and Gimel Meya Amo von dem Chotzer was in ihm wird nichlol der Mishkan, that the Mishkan is included in it, the 100, as the way we square it out to make it into 70. So in the Behesem to the Drei Inyanim Hanal B'Kedushas HaMishkan, that fits these three above mentioned idea in the sanctity in the Mishkan. When when we talk about the general sanctity of the Mishkan, rechnet men dem Eurech HaChotzer als Meya Amma. Then we count it as 100 Amma. Thus is Koilu Kol HaMishkan Gercha. That includes the whole Mishkan as one. Chotzer with a Mishkan. Then we will matgizayin the Kedushas Proteus of Mishkan. We want to emphasize the individual sanctities of the Mishkan. Rechnet men Chotzer B'loy HaMishkan. Then we count the Chotzer without the Mishkan, Shivim Amo. With the Chotzer is a Kedusha with Naso, and then the Chotzer is its own sanctity, so it's not a part, then it's 70. And that's why we need both, because we have both counts that I've asked before, because that's another way to present the separate Kedushas. And then you have the Ichut from Beidi Kedushas, Tum Tarois Mispar Kuflamet. The union of both of these Kedusha comes out in the number 130. Motzaidim Klal Meyo. We have both the rule, we have the generality 100, with the Shloshim from Mishkan. Seine nit kein Kedusha b'fnei atzma and a tail from Klal. The 30 of the Mishkan aren't a separate entity, but it's 100 together. Usai the Shloshim from Mishkan v'dos Kedusha b'fnei atzma. We also have the Kedusha as is by itself. Und der Riber, b'shas nosi Shimon makriv ben korbanos l'chanukas hamizbeach. When the leader of Shimon offered the korbanos for the dedication Mizbeach, was his verbunden mit the drei inyonim, that is connected to the three matter, Vedosis benegeya to in Eden, as it is relates to the Eden Kenal Ba'arucha, the different level of the unities, the visual together, and how the general impacts also the individuality of that in the korbanos. Keneged Maisa Mishkan, when he was doing the Kabbanas to correspond to the act of the Mishkan, he also intended the same ideas that Mishkan had they expressed to the Mishkan. I hate to comment, but I never comment on the Rebbe's Sikha, but brilliant how the Rebbe puts this all together. It's just fascinating. Yudalin. Und das ist euch die Hasbore in the Tzveideis. This is also explaining the two opinions. Tishim Shkolim. Whether you count the 70 Shkolim that the Kaida Achad, the 70, Keneged Achotzer Beloy HaMishkan, whether we count it for the courtyard without the Mishkan. Other Ados is the Meyo that it includes the whole, but is as you includes the Mishkan, but it's when you you square it out and make the length like the width. Lloyd that Esther, they according to the first opinion.
Sorry.
Lloyd that Esther, they is that it get Goshe Chanukas Amizbeach. The main emphasis in Chanukas Amizbeach, Milas Aprat, the advantage of the individual. As euch in them is memamshach the minyan ha'achdus, that also in the individual we bring the idea of unity. That's why it all includes in the 100 amas the chotzer together with the mishkan. When the ribber is done, nita zoy negeya. That's why it's not so important the gedusha klolis biziz bifnei atzmei to talk about the general kedusha as it's by itself. Those hotashaychenus merumas in nidos ha'agolis. That is connected by the nidos ha'agolis canal Siv Yud in which there is the generality that one needs each other and they combine their gift together. Ashenkin later Tzveiter Deya, as opposed to the second opinion, is that Iker Oiftu Milas HaKlal. The main novelty, what we're coming to teach us, is the greatness of the Klal. Und der Oiftu von Chanukas HaMizbeach I know that according to the first opinion, it's only 70. We're talking about the Prat, just the Chotzer, without the Mishkan, only 70. But according to the Tzveiter Deya, is that Ikeruf to Milas HaKlal. So it's the generality, including everything. And the Reiftum for Chanukas HaMizbeach is what does Chanukas HaMizbeach accomplishes was those beweist that shows this Oich in Protim Herzach Milas HaKlal, that also in the details you can sense the Mila of the Klal. According to this opinion, we don't hint, there's no mention of the specific Kedusha, the Chotzer separately, Viziz, Bifnei Atzma, by himself. And the Rebbe learned that, and that's why he learns as the Shivim, side them Cheshbon from the Klol Shetach HaChotzer. That the 70 is the accounting of the general area of the Chotzer. Ashe Ein Kain, Shetach HaMishkon, Osod Bakumen, Mashenke Shetach HaMishkon, Osod Bakumen, Gedush Leprotis, Milas HaKlal, that is not mentioned. And we're only talking about the Shetach HaChotzer, the generality. And we don't talk about the protistic here. So we're only talking about the Milas HaKlal, and we're not talking about the Prat, and therefore we don't individualize the special Gedusha of the Mishkan versus the Chotzer. This is all Mesichas Shabbos Parshas Tzav Tovshin Mem, Yom Simchas Torah Tovshin Mem Beis, and Shabbos Parshas Vayikra Hey Nisan Tovshin Mem Gimel.